You become a sloppy cleaner. There was dust in the corner, you know. You are a housewife, so you'd better get it together. If there is still dust next time I look at it, I will sell your computer.
As my work as a cartoonist increased, my husband began giving me the cold shoulder. When I was busy with deadlines, he would harass me, get very specific about chores, and there were times when he'd make me redo the cleaning. It seems that my husband expects me to be the perfect housewife, but being a cartoonist is what I have dreamed of since I was a child. I don't want to give up now. Moreover, my husband seems to be hiding something from me. I have no intention of forgiving him. I am Nina, 31 years old. I am a freelance comic artist. I draw stuff such as serial comics, and I'm also a housewife who works hard in between housework. I have a 35-year-old husband, Todd. We registered our marriage 6 years ago with a promise that I would become a full-time housewife. In our second year of marriage, my parents passed away. I was their only daughter, and my husband and I lived together in the house I inherited. I didn't want to quit my comic book business, which I had been doing since I was a student. I could be a full-time housewife, but my dream is to make a living from my comics. Right now, I only publish fun comics. Will you allow me to work from home? I pleaded with Todd.
It's like a hobby, right? Well, it should be okay, right?
I continued to draw comics long after our marriage. However, 6 months ago, a comic I had published on my website caught the eye of a magazine editor, so I was able to get a 2-page 4-panel comic published in a monthly magazine. After that, I started getting calls from other magazines, so I got busy writing and illustrating comics every day. But when I told Todd about it, he gave me a look of obvious displeasure.
You've been on a roll lately, haven't you? You're just a shut-in whose main job is housework. Your comic books are just for fun, aren't they? Even your salary is just as big as kids' allowance, isn't it?
Why do you say that? Todd, you don't read comics, so I know you don't like them, but I've always dreamed of being a cartoonist. Sure, it's a small job, but I'm getting paid, so I'm a professional. So you shouldn't say things like that. But when I countered, Todd became even grumpier.
How can you talk so big when I'm the one who feeds you? If you have a problem with me, wait until you make more money than me.
I had nothing to say back. I depend on him, so I don't have that much work, and it's often around $600 a month. And Todd would only come to me when I was busy with deadlines.
You've become a sloppy cleaner. There's dust in the corner, you know. You are a housewife, so you'd better get it together. Next time I look at it, if there is still dust on it, I will sell your computer.
I knew he didn't mean it, but I was scared. In the end, I spent so much time cleaning that I missed deadlines. Todd seems to get irritated when he sees me being so busy, so he'd point out even the smallest household chores, which was annoying. One day, Todd came home from work at night. He has a habit of eating dinner as soon as he gets home from work. That day, as usual, the moment he sat down and put some simmered vegetable in his mouth, he shouted angrily from the kitchen.
Hey, what the hell? The radish is not cooked all the way through. Are you kidding me? Is this what you serve your husband when he comes home tired?
I was in a daze after making the deadline, but his yelling startled me. I turned to Todd. At that moment, Todd took the glass of beer in front of him and spilled it on me. My mind went blank. I had never imagined that someone would pour beer on me in my entire life. It came as a big shock to me. Oh, I'm sorry. I must have been in a daze while I was cooking. I'm sure everything else is fine, so you can leave the radish out. During the cooking, I realized that I had somehow forgotten to add the radish, and in my haste, I had dropped it into the stew without even boiling it. I made sure the potatoes were cooked all the way through, but I completely forgot about the radish. I usually don't make such mistakes, but I felt ashamed of myself. It seems Todd couldn't forgive the mistake any more than I thought he could.
It's terrible that I got a wife who can't even do her own housework. I should never have married you.
Todd got up from his seat and started to leave the dining room. I hurriedly followed him, and he went to his bedroom. Where are you going?
I'm leaving home until you're sorry.
What? I was stunned, not understanding what he meant. Todd packed his travel bag and really left the house. I chased after him, and when Todd arrived at the nearest station, he got into a cab and went away. I tried to call him several times, but he didn't pick up. And even though I sent him an apology through WhatsApp, he wouldn't even read it. I fell into a heap on the spot and sobbed. Then I received a tap on the shoulder. I turned around, and Mr. Smith, Todd's boss, was standing there. I used to work for the same company as Todd until we got married. Mr. Smith was also my boss, and he was very enthusiastic about my education when I first joined the company. Mr. Smith.
I become a section chief, you know. It's been a long time since your wedding, right? Why are you crying? You reek of alcohol. Did you go out drinking in your apron?
Oh, it's been a long time. I'm so embarrassed to say this, but Todd and I had a fight.
Oh, he's got a way of talking down to you sometimes, doesn't he? You can still put up with it if it's just an occasional annoyance at work. But when you are married and living together, he's going to get on your nerve.
Mr. Smith turned a bright smile on me as he said that. How many times has his smile saved me when I made a mistake at work in the past? Mr. Smith and I decided to go to a nearby family restaurant and talk for a while.
So, why were you crying? Were you a crier?
It's my fault. I messed up cooking today. I made a stew and only the radish was undercooked, so it made Todd angry.
Oh, really? My wife is like that too. At times like those, what happens? It can't be helped. So I think it's not good to get angry because it only tears us apart, you know?
That's a good idea.
So you two didn't go out for a drink and had a fight?
No, I reek of alcohol because Todd got mad at my cooking and spilled beer on me. I think it's dried up when I ran to the station. I still smell, don't I? I sniffed my clothes. I was told that I smelled of alcohol, but I couldn't really tell for myself.
He spilled beer on you just because you messed up your cooking? Usually? Isn't there something wrong with Todd? I thought he was a creep, but I can't believe he would do that to his wife. I can't believe it.
Mr. Smith was really angry, as if he himself had been doused with beer. It made me kind of happy.
So why did you come to the station? You came all the way out here in your apron. Is that about Todd again?
Yes, it's because Todd was acting strange. He called me a shut-in wife and said he was going to leave the house until I felt sorry for myself. I followed him and got to the station, but Todd got into a cab and went away. I was at a loss.
What?
Mr. Smith's face, which had been angry until then, suddenly became tense. After a moment of silence,
I can't tell you now, but I have a bad feeling about this. So I'm going to look into Todd too. He might have left something at home, so maybe you should look into it.
I nodded, not knowing why, but without fully understanding. We called it a day, and Mrs. Smith dropped me off at home. As Mr. Smith had told me, I looked at the shelves Todd often used, and I went through Todd's clothes. From inside the pocket of his pants, I found a hotel loyalty card. He used it quite recently, and the card showed a history of use around noon on Saturday, when he said he was working on his day off. I was convinced that Todd was cheating on me. And then I remembered something that I hadn't remembered for a long time. That was before we were married. When one of us lost a phone, we had talked about how good it would be if we could use each other's phones to find others using GPS. We both did a lot of research and had completely forgotten that we had installed an app that specialized in finding a device. We launched the app, put in the password, and Todd found his phone in a surprising place. It was a famous tourist spot. It was also a famous date spot, so it was hard to believe that he would go there alone. I decided to move, assuming that Todd was probably on a trip with his cheating partner. The next day, I called the company and asked for Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, thank you for yesterday.
It's nothing. Did something come up?
Could it be that Todd didn't come to work today? Mr. Smith didn't say anything for a while, but after a heavy exhale,
Oh yes. He had requested for vacation with pay for 4 days starting today.
I knew it.
I hate to say it, but he's probably...
I know, but now I feel much better. Thank you. After hanging up the phone, I made a decision and left home. I had been thinking about it for a long time. If Todd betrayed me, I would do this. After finishing that errand, I then called someone. Hello, it's been a while. The person on the other end of the line sounded cheerful to me, but once I told him about Todd, he immediately took my side. I hung up the phone relieved. I was sure things would turn out for the better. The next day, I went with some people to a place where the GPS on Todd's phone pointed us. It's inside a resort hotel near a famous tourist spot. Right now, he seems to be outside the hotel because the GPS showed that he was on a nearby beach. The moment Todd saw my face, he turned pale. With a smile on my face, I pointed my phone at Todd and took a series of pictures with the camera. I wanted to get a two-shot of him and the girl beside him, who was about in her early 20s. By the way, 30 minutes earlier, Todd was in a bikini with that girl. I was able to take pictures of the time Todd was applying sun oil to that woman. I let them swim until I had conclusive evidence that Todd was cheating on me. The two of them were so liberated that maybe they were out of their minds because they were kissing in public. I was not shocked at all, probably because I had already had enough of the affair. I was rather grateful to them for presenting good evidence. Todd was surprised, and the reason his face was pale was not only because he saw my face. Behind me were my in-laws. They were both giving Todd a hard look. What are you doing, Todd? I approached him with a smile, and either he panicked or his feet got caught in the sand and he fell on his butt. Seeing this, my mother-in-law let out a sigh. Todd, you're so pathetic. Who is this girl? What are you doing leaving your wife alone?
Because she doesn't do the housework at all.
Todd was flustered, but he pointed a finger at me and accused me.
Oh, really? You're wrong in saying that she doesn't do everything, right? Even if she skipped cleaning sometimes, she still did the laundry, cooking, and dishes every day, right? Mom skips cleaning sometimes too. I don't even like to do the laundry, and sometimes I leave it to Dad. That's because you work part-time, right? She's different. She's a housewife who just draws and plays. So why can't she at least do the housework properly?
Todd's words made my father-in-law furious.
You don't understand anything.
Even the people around us were looking at us in surprise. Some of them seemed to be pointing their cell phone cameras at us. In the meantime, why don't we discuss this in a proper place? Everyone nodded at my suggestion, and my in-laws and I went into a nearby restaurant first. Todd and his affair partner Mitch changed from their swimsuits into plain clothes, and then the five of us met face to face. We began by listening to Todd's side of the story.
I wanted Nina to be a full-time housewife, but she started a stupid hobby like drawing comics and neglected her housework. I told her repeatedly, but she wouldn't do what I told her to do. So it's only natural for me to start looking for my next potential wife.
Then Mitch countered him. What? Isn't that different from what you were saying to me? You had a stalker in your house and you were in trouble. So you said you wanted me to forget that unpleasant reality for a while. When I said, why don't you tell the police, you said it's only a matter of time before the police catches the stalker. If you had a wife, you shouldn't have dated me. Mitch started crying after she said that. Apparently, she was still a college student, and she met Todd on a dating app. She said she was attracted to mature men and ended up going out with him, but lamented that she got fooled. I'm sorry, I will never contact Todd again. I will consider it a learning experience and won't be fooled next time. After bowing deeply to me and my in-laws, Mitch showed them the screen where she had deleted Todd's number. Then she put her money on the table and walked away. I glared at Todd, who was flustered at Mitch's disappearance. It's only natural that I wouldn't do as you asked, right? I have feelings and circumstances too. I'm not a robot for you to control. It's disgusting to cheat on me just because things don't work out. Todd wanted to say something, but my father-in-law spoke up first.
You still don't seem happy about it, do you? I'm the one who earns the money to feed Nina, so she should respect me, right?
Matthew spoke calmly to Todd, whose body trembling with anger.
You are still like a child. You are no different from a toddler who is just begging for something because things won't go his way. You must accept Nina's wishes as they are. There is nothing more we can say to you.
The in-laws stood up and headed for a cash register with a bill. Todd and I were left alone. I had nothing more to say to him either. Todd, I got a series in a comic magazine. Todd looked at me with a scared look on his face.
Congratulations.
I can't be the housewife that you want anymore. I'm sorry. I'm tired of being with you. I want us to get separated.
I'm sorry. You can draw as many comic books as you want, and I will help you with the housework. I won't say anything arrogant to you anymore.
Todd pleaded with tears in his eyes, but I looked away from him. I didn't want to see any more of the pathetic figure of the man who used to be my husband. I'm sorry, but it's not about that anymore. You looked down on me, didn't you? I thought we were on equal footing as husband and wife, but you are different. You thought you were in a better position because you worked to support me.
No, you might have been right. I've changed my mind. I promise I won't give you a hard time anymore. So don't say you're breaking up with me.
I've decided to sell the house we lived in. I have a relative who runs a real estate agency. I told him about the situation, and he agreed to buy it right away. But we still have some formalities to do, so it can't be sold immediately. I heard that the price will be lower than what I can get through an intermediary. But it's my house, and I can do what I want with it. So I want to cut ties with you as soon as possible. I'm going to leave tomorrow. I want you to get out that house as soon as possible. With that, I got up from my seat and started working toward the exit. It was the opposite of that day when Todd left the house, because now it's him who followed me frantically as if he was chasing after me. But as I got into the car my in-laws had, my father-in-law, who's sitting in the driver's seat, started the car as soon as I slammed the door shut. Todd chased after me in the back, crying, but I couldn't see him anymore. Then, it seems that he didn't believe a word I said, because when he came home from his trip, He saw that all my personal belongings were gone. He called me in tears. I answered the phone as a last act of mercy.
Why did you sell it? It's our house, right?
Funny thing to say, isn't it? I inherited this house from my parents.
Even so, I should have a right to it.
You have no rights whatsoever to my inheritance. If you understand that, then get the hell out of my house. And as for alimony and divorce, you will be hearing from my lawyer, so don't run away, okay? I said what I wanted to say and hung up the phone. Since then, Todd was scolded by Mr. Smith for taking time off his pay to go on a trip with his mistress, I heard. He didn't need a reason to use his paid time off, but the fact that he betrayed me, his wife, and took off was something he got severely questioned about. He is now being looked at with cold eyes by his colleagues at work and living an uncomfortable life. My parents-in-law also gave up on him. Todd tried to go back to his parents' house, but they refused. Todd lost money due to alimony payment, got sunk in debt, and is living a rough life alone in a cheap apartment, unable to do much housework. Later, Mr. Smith told me about it, but I didn't feel anything. As for me, I moved into a beautiful one-room apartment, and I'm busy working on a plot for my comic series. I'm researching omnibus format works by various people and using them as a reference. The next story I'm going to draw is about husband's infidelity, so I'm thinking of using Todd as the subject. My son will be happier if I go too. Take me with you on your honeymoon. When I saw my mother-in-law with her arms crossed in a distinguished attitude, I felt something similar to giving up. No matter what she said, I had always been determined not to make things worse, but I couldn't do it anymore. I'm going to teach her a lesson. Despite my feelings, I smiled at my mother-in-law. Please, please, let's go together. My name is Nadia. I've dated Theo, my coworker who is 3 years older than me, and we just recently got married. We are living a happy life as newlyweds. At the beginning of our relationship, Theo was very dependable and cool. But as time went by, he started to show his cute and cuddly side. I acted tough and cool because I'm older, and I wanted you to see me that way. I loved how he hesitantly confessed his feelings. Life was smooth sailing, but there is one thing that worries me. That is my mother-in-law. For the past few weeks, my mother-in-law has been bothering Theo and me a lot. His parents are divorced, and he was raised by his mother. She must love him very much after she overcomes so many hardships. My mother-in-law's love for her son was so great that it was rumored even among relatives. Now she lives alone at her parents' house. She probably misses her son. She began to visit our home frequently. Good evening. I made your favorite food today, Theo. Let's eat it together. My mother-in-law would come into our house without even taking a glance at me. At first, Theo responded in an appropriate manner, but recently he started to make a displeased face.
Mom, I told you to call me in advance when you're coming. You don't have to come every day. Nadia cooks for me. It's only been 3 months since we started to live together. You could be a little more considerate.
He said this and warns her, but my mother-in-law is not the type of person who would be upset by such a thing. Well, it's my son's house, and I care about you so much. That's why I went out of my way to bring you your favorite food. I bet Nadia's food is not nutritious enough for you too.
But that doesn't mean...
Besides, you love my food, don't you? I don't think a young woman who can't take care of the housework would be able to make food to your liking. That's why I'm making it for you. Saying this, my mother-in-law looks as if she's sneering at me. I sensed some malice from the moment she greeted me at our wedding. But after our marriage, she became blatantly hostile. She was obviously making fun of me. But she's still Theo's mother. If I could, I would not want to aggravate the relationship any further. I am the one Theo loves the most. I am the one who understands Theo the best. My mother-in-law seemed to think so of herself. Moreover, she seems to think that Theo is forcing himself to eat the food I cooked. Today is not the first time my mother-in-law has brought food. She has been bringing us more and more dishes day by day. Moreover, the things she brings are getting more elaborate, possibly to bring me down. Theo, today is beef stew. I cooked homemade beef stock for this. Isn't it amazing? If you only have things that can be made in a few minutes, they will taste the same and you will get bored, won't you? Theo warned my mother-in-law, seeing me in silence.
Mom, you've never eaten Nadia's food. Why the hell are you talking like that? Apologize to her. Nadia's food tastes so good, you know.
Even when Theo was furious, his mother did not seem to flinch. Instead, she just laughed and patted Theo on the shoulder. Oh my goodness, you don't have to protect her with such lies. You're really kind, aren't you? I'm so proud of you. Without breaking her pace, my mother-in-law continued. Yes, how's the honeymoon planning going? Although we got married 3 months ago, we have yet to go on our honeymoon. Theo and I have the same off-work season, so we had planned to take a long vacation and go on a relaxing trip. However, I noticed my mother-in-law's eyes light up. I'd like to go to Europe. Beautiful cities, delicious food. There are many sightseeing spots too. What do you say? Hawaii is also nice, although it's pretty common. Spending some time on a beautiful beach. Where else? It seemed like she wanted to continue, so I cut the conversation short. Well, yes, we are thinking about where to go, so we'll keep your suggestions in mind. Apparently, my mother-in-law didn't like that and glared at me sharply. Suggestions in mind? You can't decide on this without me. This is a trip for the 3 of us. What? I look at Theo in surprise. A trip for 3? Is it possible that she is planning to follow us on our honeymoon? She hasn't said anything about the trip before this. Like me, Theo couldn't hide his surprise either.
Mom, what do you mean by a trip for the 3 of us? It's our honeymoon. Of course it's going to be just the 2 of us.
Theo's voice was laced with anger and impatience. But his mother paid no attention to him and continued. Oh, there's no rule that says mothers are not allowed to accompany their children on their honeymoon, is there? It's fine. The 3 of us are traveling together. We are a family, so let's have fun together. Theo tried to persuade her again and again after that, but she did not get persuaded a single bit. I'm going to leave for today, but please don't decide the schedule and the destination without my permission. I have my opinions too, and please make sure you eat the stew. With that, she left. By this time, Theo's face was full of fatigue.
I'm sorry, Nadia. I will convince my mother. I want to go on our honeymoon with you and only you. So please don't hate me.
As soon as my mother-in-law left, Theo apologized deeply. Of course, I confidently replied, I will never hate you. My love for Theo did not change with just the kind of person my mother-in-law was. She has shown this kind of behavior toward her son. In fact, she had been warned by her daughter and relatives before. No mother would go on a honeymoon with their son. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Let them go alone. My sister-in-law in particular immediately scolded my mother-in-law, but my mother-in-law would not listen to her at all. It's really troublesome to have such an insane mother. If you don't clearly say no, she's seriously going to follow you. Theo received a message from his sister, and his shoulders dropped in despair. 1 week later, once again, my mother-in-law came to our house. This time, she spoke in a more forceful tone than usual.
Everyone says it's unusual, but when I looked into it, it turns out that there are more cases than you might think. Parents accompanying their children on their honeymoon. So I'm not wrong. Yeah, what's wrong with me going with my son on his honeymoon? I'm definitely going with you now. I've told you so many times,
Theo replied.
I'm going on my honeymoon with Nadia. I'm not planning to take you on this trip. Maybe some parents will tag along, but that's with the kids' permission, right? I haven't given you permission. Just give up.
But she's not the kind of woman who would give up with just something like that.
I can't believe you would say such a thing. You've never disobeyed me before. You learned to rebel after you married Nadia. That's why I was against this marriage.
I honestly thought, why do I have to be told such a thing now? My mother-in-law's anger had somehow turned toward me.
Nadia, it's because of you that Theo became such a person. How can you take responsibility for this? My son will be happier if I go too. Take me with you on your honeymoon. Then I will forgive you for everything, okay?
When I saw my mother-in-law with her arms crossed in a distinguished attitude, I felt something similar to giving up. No matter what she said, I had always been determined not to make things worse, but I couldn't do it anymore. I'm going to teach her a lesson. I had a lot of dark emotions swirling around inside, but despite my feelings, I smiled at my mother-in-law. Please, please, if you could allow me to stay married with Theo by coming on this trip, let's go together. At my reply, Theo turned pale and panicked.
Nadia, wait a minute.
Don't worry, you will see. I chuckled while steadily making plans in my head. My mother-in-law, oblivious to my intentions, happily responded.
Oh, you're more understanding than I thought you'd be. You should have done as I told you from the beginning. Well, it's your honeymoon, so I will let you decide where to go. Call me when you're decided.
With that, my mother-in-law left the house. A few months later, the three of us were really going on our honeymoon. The destination was a famous beach resort. I planned everything about the trip, the way I dressed to the way I behaved. I made every possible preparation to match Theo's taste to the fullest. After dropping off our luggage at the hotel, we immediately went to the beach. After a long day of fun, we went to have dinner at a nice restaurant. As we were enjoying the food that was being served to us one after the other, Theo shyly said,
Maybe it's because we were on our honeymoon, but you look prettier than usual.
I replied with a big smile. Thank you, Theo. I'm really happy to be on my honeymoon with you. Then, Theo gave me a serious look.
I'm so happy to have married you. I look forward to my future with you.
I'm looking forward to our future too. Theo was in a good mood, shown through his sweeter words to me than usual. It was not that he was ignoring his mother, but Theo seemed to only see me, and I could only see Theo. Of course, this was a calculated effort to make me look prettier than usual. A frilly cute dress with a hibiscus on my ear. I spoke in a sweet tone of voice, which I usually don't use, to create the mood that Theo would like.
Oh, hey!
My mother-in-law could not come into our world, and was isolated. She couldn't stand it and began to speak ill of me.
This restaurant isn't that good, is it? You don't like this kind of food, do you, Theo? And Nadia, you really don't know anything about Theo, do you? If you were me,
I would have chosen the restaurant across the street. Then Theo glared at his mother.
If you feel that way, why don't you just go to that restaurant? It's disrespectful to this restaurant and to Nadia to say such a thing. I think the food is delicious, and I'm really grateful that she chose this restaurant where I can eat my favorite shrimp. I really appreciate it.
Theo's low, husky voice made my mother-in-law flinch for a moment. But then, she looked at me and started to say things again. You can eat shrimp at any restaurant. Besides, what is the plan for today? Just going to the beach and eating? We've come all the way here for a trip. This is something we could have done near our house.
Why don't you go home then?
Theo said without a pause.
She was the one that invited you and did all the planning. What was that tone of voice? I didn't want you to come in the first place. If you're going to be a stinker on our honeymoon, why don't you just go home? No one asked you to come.
My mother-in-law was at loss of words and looked down. We then left the restaurant and headed to our hotel. On the way, Theo put his hand around my waist and stayed right next to me and did not move away. My mother-in-law kept talking to Theo, but each time she was coldly dismissed. Soon after, she began to distance herself from us. Yes, this was my goal. I wanted to show how much Theo thought about me and show how much of a difference there is between my mother-in-law and me through this honeymoon. I had no intention of playing any tricks on her because I was confident from the beginning that Theo loved me and that I could beat my mother-in-law. If I had played tricks on her, there was a possibility that my mother-in-law would not accept defeat. That is why I wanted to show her how much we loved each other and that she would not be able to make any rebuttal. There is no space for me between the two of them. If my mother-in-law thought this, my plan was a success. The next day, we were able to enjoy our honeymoon to the fullest. The reason was that my mother-in-law shouted and suggested that she will look around on her own. She was giving off a blatant shouting attitude, but Theo left her to go alone. This also seemed to have taken its toll on her, and she remained quiet until the last day. However, the tragedy did not end there. My mother-in-law now spoke ill of me to my sister-in-law after returning from our trip. It was terrible. She made sexual advances toward Theo and treated me like I was invisible. She is such a clever woman. I knew I shouldn't have let her marry my son. She must have thought she would feel sorry for her and continued to tell her how right she was. Theo has also fallen so in love with that woman. He doesn't care about me at all. Even though it was a trick with his mother, I'm the one who is important, right? The mother should come first, shouldn't she? Of course, my sister-in-law brushed off my mother-in-law's opinion. What are you talking about? The honeymoon is for the two of them. It's only natural that you would be left out. It's true that the mother should be cared for, but I wouldn't want to go on my honeymoon with my mother either. No, are you saying that I'm wrong? Well, you still think you're right. I can't believe you. You're insane. I'm so ashamed that my own mother is like this. From then on, my mother-in-law seems to have been ignored by my sister-in-law. Moreover, my sister-in-law seems to have spread this story to all the relatives. After this, my mother-in-law was not taken seriously by her relatives, and she had to live a lonely life by herself. I'm sorry. I hope you can forgive me. I don't mind if Nadia stays too, so are you moving with me? My mother-in-law sent such a message to Theo when she couldn't bear the loneliness. However, Theo never responded because he didn't like how his mother worded, I don't mind if Nadia stays too. A year has passed since our honeymoon. My mother-in-law has not visited our house for a long time. Theo and I, on the other hand, have been able to grow in love without being disturbed by anyone. We will be We will be welcoming a new member to our family in 6 months. We both look forward to shopping for baby items on weekends. I'm looking forward to living a happy and peaceful life with my family of 3, excluding my mother-in-law.